Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from keyboardimprov.com, and welcome to our journey through the real book number 210, which is the great jazz standard Limehouse Blues. And in this whole series of jazz piano lessons, what we're trying to do is learn the jazz standards in kind of a holistic way, dealing with performers of the past, what they've done, what we can learn from them, how we can personalize the music, and a little bit about the cultural relevance or origins of the piece, or whatever comes up. And also dealing with performance issues or tips or how to go about things, how to learn jazz piano. And I'm going to start right off by saying, with this tune, I have a big problem, and his name is Art Tatum. Maybe your problem too, or maybe similar to one, and we're going to talk about how to turn that problem into a positive inspiration rather than a barrier or a roadblock. But first, Limehouse Blues. Great old standard. It's not played as much as it used to be, or it probably should be, because it's wonderful. Ironically, it was it's an old-fashioned jazz standard. Cab Calloway, who I actually got to have lunch with once, just one-on-one in Cincinnati in the late 80s. Cab Calloway sang it. The Mills Brothers, Django Reinhardt, the great Belgian jazz pianist, lived in Paris in the 30s. It's a great old tune, but ironically, the saxophonist Wayne Shorter used to play this in the 60s. It was one of his favorites. I think Ron Carter said that in an interview, that Wayne used to play this tune. I can't even imagine that. Although Cannonball Adderley, sort of a contemporary of Wayne's, in the 60s, he played it, and they play it very fast. There's two ways to go about this tune. The one is the more joyful, easy, fun way, which is kind of like the Mills Brothers played it. You know, so, and this tune has some oddities about it. Marlon Brando, the actor, when he was on the Larry King Show for one of his very rare interviews late in his life, he said, "Larry, let's sing Limehouse Blues." And King didn't know the lyrics, so they sang "I Can't Get Started" instead. But Brando, out of all the thousands of standards, picked Limehouse Blues. But that's how much it meant back in the 50s. It was still being played a lot. It's a joyful song. The song's origins go back to London in 1921 for a musical revue called A to Z. Limehouse was a section of the Greater London area. And it's just taken off from there. Universal tune now. It's one of the great songbook tunes that jazz is based on. So here's my problem with Art Tatum. Art Tatum played this, and it was the first time I heard the tune as a teenager. The great jazz pianist Art Tatum, and he played it not like this. He played it, but with stride, just a million notes like Art Tatum. It sounds like not even just two pianists. It sounds like three pianists playing at once at light speed. And it was one of my first jazz albums I had bought. And I listened to that over and over and over again, and I can't get that out of my head. So this is my problem. Maybe yours too, with either Art Tatum or someone who inspires you, Bill Evans or whatever. We can't get their version out of our mind when we're playing, yet we can't play it like them. You know, I mean, yes, I could probably get the transcription of this and spend a year learning it and play like Art Tatum, but that's not really my version. But it's not the point either, right? It's about being inspired by them. Why? So here's the comfort, the solace we can take from this. Not only am I up against the fact that, okay, you kind of think you can do anything. I can practice this. I can get this. I can get this, and I can't do this. I can't play like Art Tatum, right? I'll admit it to the world. I am no Art Tatum. Okay, so how do we deal with this? Well, first of all, every single jazz pianist who has come along since the early 30s, when Tatum was recording his first records, the late 30s, every single jazz pianist that we love, Bill Evans, Bud Powell, John Lewis, Keith Jarrett, every single one has had to confront the fact that they can't do what Art Tatum could do. He was just one of those once in 100 years pianist, like a Franz Liszt or something. The guy could just play anything, right? You know, in his biography, they say that as a teenager, he would go watch a parade with all the marching bands come by near his house in Cleveland, Ohio. And then he'd go home and play every arrangement, like 2 hours worth of arrangements. Had that kind of musical mind. We can't necessarily develop that. We might have it somewhat innately to different degrees, but we can't access it like someone like he could. Just boom, right? The chord substitutions, the technique. So everybody, Bill Evans had to confront the fact that he couldn't play as fast as Art Tatum, you know? Bill Evans didn't even want to play as fast as Miles Davis played. So when he formed his own trio, Evans didn't play fast tunes anymore. You ever notice that? So what this means is that we do have limitations, and we have to embrace those and thrive within those, develop what we can within the limitations. So I still have Art Tatum's version in my head. So here's what I'm going to do. The secret, the key, is to focus on a different aspect of someone like Tatum's playing than the super obvious technique, ingenuity, harmonic genius, chord substitutions, whatever. And one of the things we can do with Tatum is focus on the changing textures when he plays, because that's really what he did. He was sort of like Mozart. He'd have this texture, Mozart, and then it would be, and all of a sudden it would shift. You know, he wouldn't stay with the same texture for a long time, usually. And Tatum's like that too. He'll play stride for a few bars, he'll play something else, he'll play a bass line, he'll just improvise. And one thing that Tatum does, and a lot of other early jazz pianists did this to some degree, is they would keep a tempo, you know, a steady 1, 2, 3, 4, but instead of playing the stride, they would hold down the chords in the left hand. You know, there's even some Jelly Roll Morton where he's playing solo piano and he's just playing 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. He's just playing chords. Then he goes back into the thing. So Tatum, even though, yes, he's playing, you know, ba, 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 and it's at light speed. It's like over 300 beats per minute. But at times, he's just playing the chords. And not only playing fast up here, not just, but he's literally going. So you're hearing this beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, and then see? So you can imply the beat and ride over it without always stating it, because we don't have a bass player and a drummer to do it for us. And it is at light speed, because I don't want to play the slower version. I just can't get that Tatum thing out of my head. But I want to use it as a plus now, a way to inspire me to create something using that principle, this varying textures, and not always having to state the beat. See where it takes me. So wish me luck. You know, fasten our seatbelts, and here we go. Start with the melody. I think I set out what I was trying to do, in that I was feeling the inspiration from Art Tatum in this case, but not feeling limited by trying to imitate exactly what he did and failing at that. So it was fast, so sometimes we're playing fast, right? But it was within the umbrella of my own musical personality and concept. So I urge you to do the same thing. If there's whoever it is, whether it's Tatum or Bill Evans or Bud Powell or Chick Corea, whoever it is that you just love, and in the back of your mind or the front of your mind, you're saying, oh, but it's not as good as Chick Corea. It's not as good as Herbie Hancock. It's not as good as Brad Mehldau. Whatever it is, use them as an inspiration, just like they did to someone like Bud Powell or Tatum. If that's what you can get out of this, and be inspired to play a great tune like Limehouse Blues, then mission accomplished. Thanks for joining me here as we go through the real book. Like I said, at this point, there's 210 of these things up, so you can Google any, or search my Keyboard Improv YouTube page for any of the tunes before then. If you'd like to start my 31-day jazz piano workshop or workouts for beginners, I'll put the link up, I think, over there. You can click on that, and I'll give you 31 days of play-alongs and inspiration, get you started. And next week, we will check out the Bossa Nova Little Boat. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it, and good luck with your playing.